welcome to this week's edition of the Swans Bigfooty Podcast. My name is Bonz. Joining me tonight is Vonn.
Hello.
Robbieando.
Hi.
And Punts.
How are you?
Now, we're coming off a fantastic 6-3-point win over the Adelaide Crows. Vonn, do you want to give us your views on the match?
I do. It was a really, really positive performance. You know, I feel like somehow the scoreline kind of almost flattered us a little bit because there are still areas of improvement. But I don't want to be, negative Nelly and, bring the whole tone down. I was really, really impressed with the forward line delivery, especially LRT providing a target. Even if he didn't mark it, he could still bring the ball down. And last week, that was just such a big complaint of mine because Collingwood could bring it out so easy. So I was so much happier with our defensive forward efforts. It was just... Oh, and of course, I have to mention my two boys, McBabe and Good Lukey, playing fantastic games. It was orgasmic.
Punts, do you have any views on the match?
Yeah, I think it was a lot better than previous weeks. Just with our stoppage work was a lot better. Luke got a lot of the ball. He obviously kicked his 4, and I just think the stoppage work was a lot better, and we got the ball going forward a lot more. The back line's still a little bit of an issue. They only really had Pods and Jenkins up there, and they still sort of troubled us, and we were leaking little goals, and it just seems everyone was fine for the same ball, and yeah, it was still a little bit out of sync, the back line, but I think hopefully with time with Laidler and Rampy's still only around the sort of 25-30 game mark. I think he'll still get better, but there was a lot more positives than negatives out of that game. Obviously Franklin sort of clicked with the weather, probably helped him a lot more than the previous 2 weeks, and it was a hell of a lot better than the last 2 weeks before that.
Okay, Robbie, what were your views on the match in particular?
Oh, well, I echo what has been said already. I think that having Derricks and LRT both back in the side really gave the forward line more of a structure, and it allowed Buddy to play a role that suited him more. And as the game rolled on, we got into our structure that we want to take on going forward into the season. But I think, as Vonn did point out, Adelaide really did drop off later in the game, and it became very noticeable that I think they got to a point where I think that they even gave up.
Yes, that is actually true. From an Adelaide Crows point of view, their last quarter effort was rather pathetic. It made our last quarter efforts against Collingwood and GWS almost look pretty good in comparison.
It's like the last 2 games between us, like the game we played against them last year, where we absolutely smashed them. That was a good performance. Everything was a shining performance the whole way through. 4 quarters of good effort, but this one, it was a struggle for 3 quarters. Then we pulled away, but during that last quarter, you were happy with how we were playing that last quarter, but it was so easy. You were thinking, is this a training drill? Adelaide just dropping off? Are they just giving up?
I believe they did give up a little bit, but that could have also partially been due to our dominance and basically, especially around the midfield and the centre clearances. You have a look at a few of the statistics from the weekend. Clearances, whilst they may have won more clearances by the final siren, it was 42-38. At one point in the first half, it was 16 clearances to 4. And our clearance work, whilst we had less, was superior. Like, our clearances, we looked threatening when we were breaking out of the midfield. And
sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Vonn.
Oh, what I wanted to say was that actually that's something I wanted to mention as well. Like, you look at the key statistics, and even though that they do show that, it's quite common. Both sides seems to, have played kind of an even game. So if you were to look at the stats and then look at the scoreline, you'd think, how did that happen? So I think that's a credit to our ball use, which is something you can't really measure. So I thought that when we had it, we didn't overhandle it, and we were so much more impressive and so much more decisive with our efforts compared to Adelaide. So definitely the stats didn't tell the full story in this week. So that was rather good from us to improve our efficiency and work rate and all of that stuff.
Now, I did want to bring in two performances to light. The first performance that I wanted to talk about was Harry Cunningham. Last year's been recently, not, I wouldn't say blasted, but told by a few members of our board and on last week's podcast to find a bit more of the ball. This week he was particularly effective when he had the ball. 9 disposals at 100% efficiency and 3 goals. It was threatening as a small forward, and that's what we really needed. We didn't need someone else to find a lot of the ball, and I really liked his game on the weekend. Punts, what did you think of Cunningham's game?
Yeah, I think it was good. As you said, he just seems level-headed, Cunningham. He doesn't sort of stress, you know what I mean? Every time he gets the ball, he has a look. He doesn't just blaze away. He always just seems to have a look and settle it down. I think him and Ben McGlynn are probably the best 2 kicks on the side at the moment. They just don't seem to turn. Them two are not turning over the ball often. As you said, with that small forward, them couple of goals he kicked were really good. He found it a lot over the back just by himself in the forward 50. I don't know if that was a set play, but he did find it a lot by himself. Obviously, Malcheski kicked it to him in the goal square and he out-muscled one of the Adelaide fellas. But no, I thought Harry's game was good, and I definitely think he's starting to cement a spot, no doubt.
Okay, and Vonn, I did want you to elaborate on one of your 2 boys' performances, and Luke Parker.
Yes, what would you like me to say?
Let's try not to focus on his looks for the moment, and maybe talk about his four-quarter performance.
Look, Luke, I feel like in the past few weeks, the boys, the midfield in particular, has just been so disappointing. But I felt that Luke was always quite consistent, and he's really stepped into, I guess, kind of the role that, I know O'Keefe is kind of feeling the Jude Bolton role, but I always felt that Luke was more of the Bolton replacement because he's just so hard and he's just, okay, I don't want to discuss him being hard, let's just move on to someone else.
I did actually want to ask you one more question about Luke. What do you believe is the main reason for his improvement since last year? He was very good last year, particularly in finals. But this year he seems to have taken his game to a new level. Would you call it greater endurance? Would it be him getting more of an opportunity in the midfield?
I think it just comes down to... he had a huge pre-season, as all of the boys did. I feel like last year, I don't know if my memory is a little bit hazy, but I feel like he was used as the sub a lot, and he wasn't given as much freedom to kind of play a more attacking role. I feel like he was kind of more told to run with a player and tag them, whereas I feel this year he's kind of been allowed to play a full game and build up that match fitness and match form. And in addition, he's also kind of been let loose, and Longmire must have said, you know, you can go out and get the ball so much more without having to worry as much as a tagging role, because I feel like with the introduction of Ben into the forward line, into the midfield, he's kind of played that tagging role now, so it kind of frees Luke up.
Okay, thank you, Vonn. Now, Robbie, I was hoping you'd actually be able to talk a little bit about Ben McGlynn's performance on Dangerfield on the weekend.
Yeah, when the game started, I was shocked to see him lined up against him, mainly because the size difference and Dangerfield's pace. Now, McGlynn has got pace, I won't deny that part, and I thought he wouldn't be able to go with him purely on the strength of size. But when once the game got started in the first 2 quarters, that's when the game was really decided for me. He really put Dangerfield out of the game, and I thought that was one of the best games he's played for us as a club, because he negated Dangerfield and he also had the impact going forward, setting up goals. And I think he might have kicked 1 goal himself.
Well, thank you very much. It was a brilliant performance by McGlynn. I actually think that's one of the best. He's very quickly become the best tagger we've had over the last 2 or 3 years nearly now, and I'm actually feeling really confident that it's a pretty damn good matchup for Harvey this weekend.
In the pre-season, as I said, I was there a couple of weeks in the pre-season, and he was flying. I posted it a fair bit, but he was a standout on the track by a mile. And I know the players mentioned it also. It's just, it was just a standout. It just was never, just a clear standout from anyone. And he's obviously taken into the season, which is good on him. And I guess he deserves the accolades.
I think he'd almost be leading our best and fairest at this stage. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
I honestly, definitely. Park will be going close to that actually, but close.
It'd be between Parker and McGlynn easily right now. You can't split the two of them.
Yeah, it wouldn't be many more.
Now,
with McGlynn, Hawks fans were saying that he would be he was like the throw-in player. Kennedy was the headline. McGlynn was the second string of the Kennedy-McGlynn trade. And Hawks fans saying, well, he's the one that will shock you with his work rate, and he'll be the one that will do a lot of things that you won't expect. You'll get a lot of... Kennedy will be the great player, but McGlynn will become a mainstay and provide you with 10 years of good service. And he's done his job as a half forward. Now he's moving into the midfield, and he's going to be a very important player for us over the next 2 to 3 years.
He has certainly exceeded all my expectations ever since he's arrived at the club. I wouldn't exactly call him steak knives in the Kennedy deal. Whilst Kennedy has been brilliant for us, McGlynn's been nearly as important, and it was quite devastating when he missed 2012's grand final.
Oh, definitely by that stage he was an important part of our side, but at the time it was you would say as a minor player in the players. He was the minor player compared to Kennedy.
I would say so, but he had also had more runs on the board than Kennedy at that stage. Now, I also wanted to talk about one more performance from the weekend, and it's a performance that's been quite overshadowed by most of our board. Was Nick Smith's performance on Eddie Betts on the weekend was amazing. Not only did he hold Betts goalless, and we are talking about one of the players who's one of the informed small forwards in the competition and has been for the last few years, but he's also managed to find 17 disposals, a couple of rebound 50s. It was a brilliant game, and he's someone that's continuously slipping under the radar and actually could be up there with Parker or McGlynn in the best and fairest, I'm thinking at the moment.
Yeah, WWNSD. What would Nick Smith do? I wouldn't call it a surprise. He's done it to Eddie Betts before. He does it constantly. Actually, you say that everyone's been saying that he'll be the one that will go on to McGlynn will be the one going on to Boomer Harvey. I wouldn't be surprised if Nick Smith does.
I wouldn't be surprised. Let's move on to the North Melbourne game now. Talking about the matchups and especially Boomer Harvey to begin with, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a dual role. When Boomer Harvey's running through the midfield, it has to be McGlynn. We've got no other midfielders that can keep up with him for pace and endurance, unless we use someone like perhaps Hanbury in a tagging role, which would negate us from one of our strengths.
Yeah, and that'll take him into the back line. And I think what McGlynn did on the weekend was he didn't go into the back line when Dangerfield went forward. Someone else took him, so there was a dual tag put on Dangerfield as well.
Now,
late in the game.
In regards to Harvey going forward, I don't think we'd be able to free up Smith for the role on Harvey, simply because they've got Thomas up forward. And
I think
Rampy may have to come across to him.
I think Rampy would go to Thomas anyway.
Nah, I don't think. Smith has always sort of got Thomas all the time, hasn't he? But I just can't see.
And he's done relatively well.
Yeah, he normally holds him pretty well, and Thomas, he's in pretty good form at the moment. He's kicking goals and he's in really good form. I just think Smith will get him in the forward line, and no doubt. And I think McGlynn will have to follow Boomer Harvey around, and then we'll see what happens when he pushes forward. Who negates him? It'll be interesting, that one.
I think it will have to be Rampy. Rampy had a great game on the weekend. Whilst people seem to be bashing his disposal efficiency, he isn't making that many
No, he
utmost
actually
clangers.
He actually hit targets on the weekend, which is hopefully he's starting to clean up his kicking, because he is quick and can give us another rebounding defender if he, the better he gets at his kicking, obviously he's going to become an asset to the team. I think even more. I didn't mind Rampy's game. I thought it was one of his better ones. I think I posted that it was probably the best game he's actually had there. I think, and he actually took a couple of marks, coming across and helping out, which he doesn't seem to do a hell of a lot. So I think it was a good game from Rampy.
7 rebound 50s, and 8 tackles on the weekend. So I honestly think that Rampy would be an ideal matchup for Boomer Harvey when he's resting forward. He's got the pace to run with Harvey, and Rampy's shown us is a very good mark and spoil for his size. He seems to have longer arms than it appears to be. Vonn, who do you see running around with Wells if, as expected, McLean goes to Boomer Harvey in the midfield?
That's a good question. I don't really see a natural matchup unless we go Kieran Jack, but he's one that has the risk like Boomer Harvey. If we put two, he's another one that McLean could go to. There's a few players that could go to him.
I have a feeling I might get blasted for this over the board for even suggesting it, but I honestly think the best matchup we have for Daniel Wells on the weekend would be Jared McVeigh. Use McVeigh getting the run in the opposite direction. McVeigh can play in defence and read off the man, actually apply some pressure to Wells. Let's say we bring in even Craig Bird to the team, I don't think he's got the agility to keep up with him. McVeigh's got some of the best endurance in the club, and I think it would almost be an ideal matchup. Punts, what would you do in regards to the Wells?
I don't think they're going to try and tag the whole group. You know what I mean? It's just impossible. I think they're going to let them sort of go head to head, and if Wells gets off the chain, it's going to take someone to swap it around. But I just can't see him tagging Dalsano, Wells all at once. You know what I mean? And
I wasn't trying to suggest that McVeigh tags Wells, but I wanted a head-to-head matchup.
A head-to-head matchup. Yeah, I see. Wells is obviously he starts in the middle. Like with McVeigh, they're playing him. They're playing pretty much 8 defenders at the moment, Sydney. They're playing still McVeigh behind the ball a lot. I don't know why. I don't understand that. As his pre-season form, he was a couple of games, I think, got 30 odd plus and kicked a couple of goals. And I think McVeigh is even though he was always Australian last year, I still think his best position is running through the midfield, half forward and pushing forward and kicking goals. Because around the goals, his awareness is second to none in the team, and he showed that at the start of last year. And the Carlton final, I'm still iffy on why they're still playing him back with Reece Shaw on the side. I don't know. It's a bit of a funny role.
I want to offer an alternative suggestion with McVeigh. I actually kind of like him at halfback because everyone knows you kind of get your cheapies off halfback. And contrary to what SR100 was saying last week, I actually think, and I think there was an article I read that agreed with this, I think McVeigh is such a great user of the ball. So once if he's in halfback getting those kind of, like cheap kind of disposals, he's always going to create something. Whereas in the midfield, I feel like we've got stronger ball winners than him. So we don't really need him. Like, it's a bit sort of like he's not really an inside player, and he doesn't have the pace really to be an outside player. So I kind of feel like the half-back role suits him quite well. And with Shaw aging, and also Layla, coming in with the inexperience, I feel we need someone like a captain back there to kind of marshal the troops kind of thing. So I guess I don't really mind seeing him in the half-back line.
Yeah, you're right. He does use the ball, obviously, probably the best out of everyone. With Shaw at the moment just seems to put it on the boot, and wherever it goes, it sort of goes. He's probably one of the worst games I've seen him play on the weekend.
It was, and Shaw wasn't the best when he came to the club, and it's not a surprise when he does have a game like he did on the weekend.
I would also, I'd also, in regards to disposal efficiency outside of defensive 50, how would you find Layla's game on the weekend? I found he sold players into a lot of trouble at times, but looking at his statistics, he's ended up with 84.6% disposal efficiency, and I just don't understand that.
Yeah, I thought Layla, some of his decision making, I was still a little bit nervous. I guess he doesn't have that advantage of gelling with the backline and actually playing real AFL games alongside Teddy and all of them. So in that sense, he's not as clean as we'd like him to be. But I thought there were some really good signs. There was a very strong tackle, which directly led to the Rowan goal. And, he seems to be putting in effort. And at this stage, I don't know, I can't think of a replacement for him that would do a better job, just because he has been proven to play at AFL level at Carlton.
They need to play the seven defenders regardless. They can't go back to what they did against Collingwood and switch Sam Reid in defence and then lose your centre half forward and bomb to Buddy. Then it all just turns to rubbish. They have to play him. So I think he's going to stay in. But he did. I think he outmarked Salone on the half forward line, and he kicked it into McGlynn, and McGlynn goaled from there, which was a good kick. He also. As you said, there was a tackle in the middle where it turned over and he got it to Rowan. He doesn't sort of...
He did get a goal from one of Buddy's.
Yeah, he did run on. I thought he was all right. He doesn't blaze away. He does, calm down. There was a couple of times where he, got broken loose of a tackle. But I think the more time he gets, the better he'll be. I think he's played 3 games of senior football in a year, so it's probably going to take him a little bit to gel with the back line and get used to the pace of AFL. But I think he was all right, considering some think he weren't.
I think it's also what we expect of a Sydney Swans defender. He's come from a Carlton where we expected him to be at a certain level, and he's got to adjust to our style of play, and he's been thrown into the deep end, so to speak, with Johnson's injury. So he's on a hiding to nothing with expectations. He does have some limitations.
Okay, now, in regards to this weekend's game, who do you believe the ins and outs will be, Punts?
Well, Craig Bird looks to be fit, so he'll obviously come in, and if it's looking like it's going to be raining, I think, and he's probably the best wet weather football guy we've got, so I think he'll come in, and if it is going to be raining, I don't know if they will go with the 2 rucks. If it is raining, because I don't think Curry will play for North. I think he'll get dropped if it is raining. I think they'll back up with Petrie. I think Bird will definitely come in if that's going to be for Ryan O'Keefe. I don't know if they'll take out Ryan O'Keefe due to the big body if it is raining. I really don't have a clue who's going to get dropped, but I think Craig Bird will definitely play, whether that be Derricks or Ryan O'Keefe. I think it's got to be probably one of them two, but then LRT has the second ruck then, and then, he's sort of taken, but he sort of comes, as a number one, he takes the number one defender, and he might even get double teamed if that happens, so I really don't know. I'm sort of on the weather in that one, I think.
I don't think we'll drop Ryan O'Keefe after the weekend. He didn't have a bad performance. I think it was his best performance so far this season. And another aspect about Ryan O'Keefe that's quite valuable is he had, on the weekend, 100% time on ground. He didn't come off for
14 possessions.
Whilst it was only for 14 possessions, he was applying pressure. We can actually rest him up forward.
But he didn't. But he played permanently up forward.
I'm not too concerned about Ryan O'Keefe staying in the team at the moment.
To be honest with you, as hard as it is to say.
Honest. Reading the board for the last few weeks, it's just been a little bit weird because, I don't actually think O'Keefe has been that bad. I know he's not matching his AA output, but I still think he's been quite serviceable, and I actually think not playing him in the start of the GWS match actually cost us quite a bit because he is such a strong body and he is so experienced. So I don't know, I just don't really think we would drop someone like that. And we've shown with how we use the sub, we use the 20-second best player as the sub. Like, it's never really strategic. It's more whoever needs a rest or whoever's, the last pick kind of thing. And he just, I know he was that in the first week, but, since then he hasn't been. So I just don't think he's in any danger of losing his position, especially if it's going to rain.
And especially with Norths, they do have a lot of hard bodies themselves, so I think he would be the last player to drop. If we're going to drop a player, we would probably drop Rowan. But I wouldn't suspect we'd do that either.
It's a good problem to be in. Like, we do need to find a way to fit in Craig Bird this weekend. Like, Bird is best 18. He is starting 18 at our club, and his best and fairest results show that.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want to be the coach making the decision right now. I would honestly keep Derricks in the side as well. He's allowing Pike to have a rest, and it's working quite well in Camden. I don't think we'll be dropping Derricks until Tippett comes back.
I don't think we'll be dropping LRT either.
No, we won't be dropping him.
It gives us the flexibility forward and defensively. To be perfectly honest, I think Laidlaw could go again.
I'm honestly agreeing along the same lines. I think if anyone is in the firing line, it would be Laidlaw or Rowan. But I do like Rowan as a sub, and I hope they use him again this weekend, as he came on and made an impact. That goal he got was quite inspiring at the time. It started a bit of an avalanche.
And it was very reminiscent of that goal kicked against Geelong in 2011.
Yeah, they're talking about having pace in the side. I can't see Rowan getting dropped. They want pace in the side. I can't see Rowan getting dropped. I can't see him being subbed this week either. Not the way John Monmouth spoke in the press conference. He said that he would have rather play Rowan the whole game if he wasn't injured. So, to me, I don't think they've got in their mind that Rowan's going to be the sub much either, the way he sort of spoke about him. So I'd be interested to see, as you said, who would be subbed this week, unless they make O'Keefe sub, because they've done stupid things like that before. So I remember seeing Jesse White sub last year. Jesus Christ, they don't have a clue with subs. They're probably the worst team at choosing their subs, I think. But I think O'Keefe, the only thing with O'Keefe, as I said, he's a big body. I think we either need to play him in the midfield, or he just doesn't give us enough forward, I don't think. I know they're trying to play him that Jude Bolton role, but he doesn't, he's not fast enough to get to the contests. He doesn't take marks down there anymore. I know we haven't been using the ball particularly well, but yeah, I don't know about O'Keefe staying down forward, but that's my opinion.
I think he's on the wrong. He leads to the wrong pocket. As a left footer. He's not, but he can't bend the ball the wrong way.
The only issue I'd have with O'Keefe playing as sub is, I know we haven't used the sub well, but he's one of those players that you either drop or you start. You don't bring on someone like O'Keefe and expect him to get 2 clearances. It's just, I don't know. It's just silly. I'm actually going to say something that, I don't know. For me, I was impressed with Derricks. I have been, and I did defend him last week, but I don't feel like he's set the world on fire, and I'm not really expecting him to. But for that reason, I feel like it would not hurt to drop him. Just because we've got LRT back, we've got him to, I guess, to complement Pike, and also Rowan, if he starts, he'll be our main target in the forward line, or whichever resting ruckman will be our target. That's not a huge issue. And I think we'll bring in Bird. I know it's not like for like, but I feel like the only reason Derricks is in is to be a ruck. And now we've got LRT back. We won't really miss him as much.
Yeah, but we didn't bring in LRT to play ruck against Adelaide, and the reason why we brought Derricks in was to play ruck. And
yeah, but
Pike got his 60% game time rather than 75. And the reason why, and that allowed him to be more fresher later in the game and have more impact. Whereas if he played more game, has more game time in the ruck, he wears out.
I know, but I'm actually more saying I want LRT to play as the backup ruckman and have Rowan as our target instead of LRT, because I don't actually think LRT I think is just a target. I don't actually rate him that highly as a forward, you know. I don't, like, in terms of his marking potential, I don't think he's got, like, a set of amazing hands or great goal sense or anything like that. I just think in the Adelaide game he was just a focal point for us to.
He was very smart on the weekend with blocking, allowing the buddy. He might have only got the 5 disposals, but he was very smart in the way he blocked out Talia a couple of times and let Buddy get loose. I think that's interesting because if it is raining and on the SCG being a smaller ground, I think they might, maybe LRT can back up because with the ruck maybe, but as you said, I'd rather have, say, O'Keefe as a big body in there than have Derricks in the side. That's my opinion, but I don't know.
I wanted Derricks out of the side, not in the side.
Yeah. So
I would keep it as I said. I would take Laidler out only because I would rather have 2 ruckmen and have the group of.
What do people think about? I don't know if you guys remember, but I think in our earlier podcast we were saying that SM and I went to the intra club and we were really, really impressed with Nankervis as a forward and also his work around the ground. I'd say his work around the ground just from that game alone, so not a huge sample space, but just from that game alone, he probably looked more comfortable than Derricks did. So if we're going to, for structural reasons, I'd like us to see play Nankervis. Just try things out. We're still so early in the season, and like I said, Derricks hasn't set the world on fire. It wouldn't hurt us to.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from on that point, but it's the game against North Melbourne's too important to blood a ruckman. If we're going to be blooding a player, I'd rather be blooding a midfielder type player like a Jones or a Hewitt.
Bonz, does Nankervis have much experience?
Nankervis had a bit of senior experience last year whilst playing in Tasmania. Most of his experience, most of the times I have seen him play was at under 18s level. So he got actually the best ruckman at under 18s level last year in Australia. He was your Australian ruckman, but at the same time, I'm not 100% sure he'd be ready for senior AFL level football yet. I think he would be a good second option and he'd be better resting up forward. I would be worried about him rucking around the ground as I don't think he has quite enough strength yet. Give him a season or two
as well. His knees a little bit not unfit, but they were worried. I remember them saying that when they were talking to him during the year, they really wanted him to get fit before he got drafted. So he must have had a few endurance issues. So to run around all game, or as you said, and he'd probably be second ruck obviously anyway, but they might be still a bit unsure on if he can actually run around the whole ground and not get towed up by Goldstein or someone like that.
Yeah, because Goldstein's an all-Australian ruckman, so it's not like we are coming up against a pretty good ruckman.
I wouldn't want to be going into this week's game with only one ruckman. Against Goldstein, Pike will get run off his feet. He got run off his feet by Mumford in round 1. Not Mumford and Co. in round 1. But I do think we need to keep a second ruckman for this weekend. That being said, do you guys have any final predictions for the North Melbourne Sydney match? Vonn?
Predictions, as in a margin?
As in a margin and best players.
I know I said this on the board, but I don't even care if we finish bottom 4. I don't care if we win the wooden spoon. I cannot deal with the thought of losing to North Melbourne.
How can you hate North so much?
I just cannot.
Oh, dear God. Seriously?
I just can't. Yeah.
I'll get onto that rant after everyone else's predictions.
Yep, okay, so Punts, what's your prediction for the weekend?
One thing I do think we did too much against Adelaide was kick it to Franklin. I think he was involved in, what did he kick? He kicked 4 goals and he was involved in 9 scoring involvements, was he?
That's correct.
Is that correct?
It was
so
11.
That's, say, 13 of your goals. I just don't want him to get kicked too much. I just don't want him to kick it to him too much if we're starting to panic and stuff like that, because he'll end up cracking the shits. So just don't kick it to him on top of his head, if you know what I mean, all the time. It just seems we went to him a fair bit against Adelaide, and at the SCG he's probably going to be cramped up that time a little bit more, I think. And we just can't afford to, kick it on top of his head and stuff like that, because Thompson's done pretty well on Buddy in the past, so I don't think there's going to be any issues with Thompson, trying to hold him. But I think we'll get over the line. But they're big body. They've got a pretty big body midfield too. So I think it's going to be a rather close game. I just hope it doesn't rain. That's all. I just don't want it to be a
chance of a few showers.
Down. That's all right.
So
as long
it
as it
shouldn't
doesn't
be too bad.
Yeah, they said that about the GWS game, and I was there, and it, yeah, Jesus
that was
Christ,
torrential.
Yeah, 1 minute I had sunscreen on, the next minute we were nearly getting hit by lightning. So, I think we'll get up by around about a couple of goals, but I wouldn't be surprised if they knocked us off either. So, I still don't think we're in full flight. That's definitely, you know what I mean, in full flight at the moment. But we can only get better after last week, hopefully.
Now, Robbie, what was your
improvement?
So,
And we need to improve further to beat North Melbourne. We can't play as we did, because if we think this is going to be an easy game, they'll roll us. And despite the fact they haven't beaten us since 2004.
2007 was the last time they beat us.
No, 2007 was.
And I think they'll have a lot of confidence after the Port game as well now.
Yeah,
big confidence.
And the 2007 game was the 19th man incident.
That's right.
So 2004.
Jeez.
So that's why that's why the rant is why we can't lose this game, because their fans have been waiting a long time for this, and the board will be absolutely impossible to moderate.
I think my tip. I know I didn't actually give a tip, so I want to give my tip. Coming from your leading tipster, guys, I think I don't know. I think North by 2 points. Just a heartbreaking game like that, and we're just going to be crushed. I just think it's going to be. I don't know. I just think North are going to get over us by a few points.
Personally, on Sunday.
Yeah.
Personally, on Sunday,
everyone knows you're going to think negative, Punts. That's not a surprise there.
Unless it's pre-season, then Punts is surprisingly positive.
Hey, I was pumped up pre-season. Then after that first round,
Punts, can we sue you for misleading information?
Yeah, you probably can. Doesn't bother me.
I think he wants to
Jeez.
see the club for that one.
Yeah, well, after seeing him in pre-season, I was all pumped up, and then nice weekend up at GWS turned into. I just wanted to get out of there. I can get home.
Who's your tip, Vonn?
I honestly believe we're going to steamroll them on the weekend. 38 points.
Oof.
And I've got a state fencing competition at Arden Street on Sunday starting at 9 a.m. I'm going to leave the competition at 12 to get home just in time to watch the match. But part of me is tempted to watch the game in Arden Street at a TV they have to have set up there in my Swans jersey. That is the.
They can afford to set up a TV. You're giving them a bit too much credit there.
A bit too much credit, maybe, because I still haven't found a second bathroom at Arden Street. I am not joking. I've been there 5 times, and they've only got the one on the first floor. But
they're shocking. One's in the basketball courts.
Yeah, I can't honestly find a second set of change rooms there. I've gone in there and I've seen Daniel Wells getting changed in there. Before.
Yeah, that's the change rooms for the Melbourne Tigers.
I've seen Daniel Wells getting changed in there. I think they share the same change rooms.
Yeah, they speak about how great their facilities are. You walk in, this is fantastic. Then you see it. Okay, this is. They actually have to share this with a basketball team, a fencing federation. So they actually don't have control over it.
The best, most ironic thing about the fencing federation is the fencing facilities aren't even the best fencing facilities at an AFL club in Victoria. The fencing facilities for VRI at Richmond Football Club are better than the ones at Fencing Victoria. Which tells you that the whole of Arden streak is a joke. And that brings us into our next segment.
Oh, so smooth.
Now, Vonn,
So smooth.
I believe you wanted to get us underway.
Me?
Yes, give us your joke
Okay,
first.
alright guys. What is the similarity between North Melbourne Football Club and the Salvation Army?
No idea, let's hear it.
Alright, they are both not-for-profit organisations. On to someone else now.
Now, we actually do have a very special joke from one of our mods, RW, who couldn't make it on tonight. What is North Melbourne's unlucky number?
13! Can you believe it?
Oh, that's not very moderator-like. He should be ashamed of himself. Moderators do not make those type of jokes.
Punts, did you prepare any special
Nah.
for us?
We do
I
not
don't
have
think so.
students.
Now, speaking of
Most
mod...
don't mind North
Now, I
Okay,
actually
well,
do...
You're not on the right podcast. You're not following the right team.
Now, I have two...
I'm red carding you when I get back on the boards.
Now, I actually have two jokes for everyone in regards to the North Melbourne joke segment. The first one I had recently posted on the board. What is the difference between North Melbourne and Andrew Demetriou? Andrew Demetriou actually has some fans. And the best joke, which I have saved for last. What is the difference between Wayne Carey and Skippy?
No idea.
Skippy can root whoever he likes and still be a kangaroo. Now, we may as well go on to our final segment for the week. Our sure thing from this weekend and worst nightmare. Robbieando, do you want to take us away? What is your sure thing?
Sure thing of the week. That you'll be a moderator this time next week.
Woo! Go Bonz!
Well, that's a surprise to me.
Congratulations.
Thanks. I'm
Hey,
also...
this podcast doesn't break news.
I feel like almost this podcast, it's like a marriage proposal of some sort. Like, there should be like some kind of special headline, like, Bonz becomes moderator or something. Something like that.
The problem is we have to keep it a secret for a while.
Well, that just got broken out of the water. And I do also believe in regards to you saying moderators have no sense of humour, my Wayne Carey joke has just broken that out of the water.
But everyone, I've always had a sense of humour on this thing.
What about your footy sure thing, Robbieando?
My pretty sure thing is I think the Swans will give us all a heart attack yet again. And,
That isn't just a sure thing, that's a certainty of life.
I don't know, last week wasn't a heart attack.
Well,
But
they got within 2 points, I was pretty nervous.
Same me.
No,
When
I
we're
thought-
sure at the ball.
they'll probably run us, then us no heart attack, or we'll run away with it. No heart attack. But, on a margin, considering how lucky some were last week, but who aren't he gloating, by the way? I think we'll win by 36 points. And the other one is that I think Hawthorn will get beaten.
That's an interesting prediction.
Yeah.
Hawthorn to get beaten this weekend.
Yeah, they're playing Gold Coast on the Gold Coast.
Mm.
That'll really announce the coming of the Suns.
Yeah.
Okay, Punts, what's your sure thing from the weekend? Well, for the weekend.
For the weekend, Gary Rowan to kick 4 and have a standout game. And what an AFL one, I'll say definitely won't be Gold Coast beating Hawthorn. I'm going to say Rewald to kick 6 and Richmond flog Collingwood.
Okay, Vonn, your sure thing for the weekend?
Okay, my sure thing is that we're going to get selections wrong and we're going to use the sub wrong. My other sure thing is that SR100 is going to post some kind of comment about how the podcast is worse off without him. And my AFL sure thing is that... I can't even think of anything. I don't care about the other games. I just want to beat North so badly. My worst nightmare is probably being awake if we lose to them.
Oh, ditto.
I'm pretty confident it is a shared worst nightmare. North Melbourne winning a football match, let alone against the Swans.
You guys won't have to moderate the board this Sunday.
Well, I don't know when I'll become a mod, but...
No, you probably won't be in by this time next week, but...
Now,
Well,
my sure thing for the weekend...
If you thought after the GWS game was bad...
This one will be a nightmare.
Oh, because their fans will come on. Ooh.
Now, as for my sure thing on the weekend, AFL-wide, I believe Essendon will beat Fremantle. I think Essendon are one of the form teams in the competition. They were desperately unlucky against Hawthorn 2 weekends ago, and Fremantle aren't as good as everyone rates them to be. My sure thing from the Swans' perspective is we are going to overrun North Melbourne in the last quarter. I know it may cause a few laughs. It will happen. We will overrun them in the last quarter, because that is what happens every time we play North Melbourne.
Gary Ryan to kick the winning goal and do the new mad face too.
No.
I'm actually going to stab you when I see you next in Melbourne, because you just jinxed us big time.
And winning goal, final goal, Lance Franklin.
Gary Ryan.
No, I think Lance Franklin. North don't seem to like him much, so let's keep going with that. Anyways, everybody, thank you for listening to this week's podcast. I hope I haven't jinxed the result. Have a great weekend. Good night.